Realm of Reckoning is a strategic 2 to 5 player game where you'll rebuild a shattered afterlife, one monument, one sacrifice at a time. Long ago, the realm was whole, united under the Queen of All Souls. Now, after a brutal civil war, its monuments lie broken and its power scattered. And you're here to shape what comes next. Over 3 ages, you'll lead one of 5 factions, drafting action cards each turn to gather vital resources, coins, mercenaries, acolytes, wardens, while aligning yourself with the ancient pillars that once upheld the realm. Every card you draft grants you something, but each choice also forges your allegiance and unlocks powerful scoring opportunities. The true struggle, however, comes in the Reckonings. 3 times per age, regions erupt in a blind bidding war where you'll secretly commit resources to claim power and define the future. Win a Reckoning, and you'll earn the right to place a monument that changes the way you score victory points for the rest of the game. However, you'll need to spend your resources wisely. Once you bid them, they're gone. Power always comes at a cost. By the end of the final age, 9 monuments will dot the landscape, each carving a new path to victory. Now, let's dive into how to play. To set up, place the game board in the center of the table and gather the monuments and wardens beside it. Shuffle the mercenary cards and place that deck on its space, then shuffle the 5 public reckoning cards and place them next to the final reckoning spot. Then, lay out the 5 artifacts and create a supply of 25 gold coins. Shuffle the Reckoning reward deck according to your player count and place it beneath the Reckoning cards. Then, place 2 claim tokens of each color on each of the 5 regions. Each player should then choose a faction and take the matching player board, dial, guide card, acolytes, and score trackers. Place 1 scoring tracker on the specified starting space of the victory point track and your 5 other scoring tokens on the 0 of each pillar influence track. You'll then gain the starting resources and influence that are listed on your player board. For example, the remnants take 1 red warden, place 1 acolyte in Colossal's Marsh, and 2 acolytes in Shattered Ward. Then advance 2 spaces on the Dominion track and 1 space on every other track. Then shuffle the public reckoning cards and place 1 face up on the final reckoning spot. Then reveal 3 random reckoning reward cards from the deck matching your player count. Next, we'll prepare the 3 action card decks, 1 for each age. In a 3-player game, use the base deck. In a 4-player game, add the 4+ cards, and in a 5-player game, add both the 4+ and 5+ cards. Divide the deck into 3 equal stacks, 13 cards for 3 players, 18 for 4, and 23 cards for 5 players. Then return any extra cards to the box. Now we'll add 2 random reckoning cards to each deck. Split the reckoning cards into 3 identical stacks, each containing 1 card for every region. Shuffle the first stack and add 2 cards from it to the first deck of action cards. Then shuffle the second stack and add 2 cards to the next deck, then do the same for the third. Finally, shuffle each completed deck. Then give the first player card to the player who is the faction lowest on the printed order on the score track. Finally, deal 5 cards from the first age deck to each player, with the first player having 6 cards, including their first player card. Realm of Reckoning takes place over 3 ages, each with 5 rounds. In each round of an age, all players will simultaneously select 1 card from their hand and place it face down in front of them. Once everyone is chosen, reveal your cards. Beginning with the first player and proceeding to the left, each player resolves their card. If it's an action card, perform its action and then tuck it under your player board at either the top or bottom slot underneath its pillar. If it's a reckoning card, trigger a reckoning immediately. Once everyone has resolved their cards, pass your remaining cards, including the first player card if you're the first player, to the left, and repeat until all cards have been played. Note that in each age, the drafting and turn order flips. So in age 2, players will resolve and pass their cards to the right, and in age 3, it will again be to the left. To resolve an action card, first gain the rewards in the center of the card. there are 4 types of rewards. The first action type, deploying acolytes. Grab the specified number of acolytes from your reserve and place them into any regions. Or if your reserve is empty, you may move ones already on the board. The next action type is coins. Take that number of coins from the supply. If the supply is empty, take coins from any player or players of your choice. Next are mercenary cards. Draw the specified number of cards from the mercenary deck. After drawing, if you have more than 8 cards in your hand, discard cards down to the max hand size of 8. And lastly, recruiting a warden. Grab any available warden from the general supply. Once you've gained your reward from the action card, you must then choose where to tuck your card. Each card has a top option and a bottom option, each with some number of influence and scoring icons. Once you've chosen, tuck it under your board and any other cards in the matching pillar, and then advance on the matching influence track by the number of arrows on the card. If you are the leader on this track, immediately gain its artifact, which we'll cover later. For example, you might play this card that gives you 3 coins. Then you might choose to tuck it under the yellow pillar, which will advance you 2 spaces on the yellow influence track, also giving you 1 coin purse icon that may help you later in monument scoring. When you play a Reckoning card on your turn, it triggers a Reckoning in that region. First, that player should choose 1 face-up reward card. This card determines what rewards are up for grabs during this Reckoning. Next, the player who played the Reckoning card must move a claim token from any other region into the Reckoning region. The claim tokens present in the region determine which influence tracks, wardens, and mercenary cards can be used for bidding. All players then secretly dial in their bids on their dials. Once the bids are revealed, you will be forced to pay your bid number using the resources you've accumulated throughout the game. Here's how each resource can be spent for bidding on a Reckoning. First, you may spend any number of your acolytes in the region, each worth 1 bid. So I've got 3 in the region, so I could add up to 3 to my bid by spending my acolytes. Next, all influence you've gained on any tracks that match a pillar token in the region can be used to bid. So for example, there is a yellow and a red pillar in the Reckoning region. I have 5 yellow influence and 3 red influence, so I could add up to 8 to my bid by spending my influence on those tracks. Next, you may use any icons on mercenary cards that have a matching icon to one of the pillars in the region. If both icons on a card happen to match pillars in the region, that card is worth 2 bids. I have 3 cards in hand. 1 card has a yellow icon and another has a yellow and a red. I could spend those 2 cards to add 3 to my bid. Coins may also be spent to increase your bid. Your first bid costs 1 coin, the second costs 2, the third costs 3, and so on. So for example, I have 6 coins, which means if I spent all of them, I could add 3 to my bid. And lastly, wardens. To use a warden during bidding, their color must match the color of a pillar token in the Reckoning region. Each warden that matches automatically adds 1 to your bid without discarding it. It's essentially a free bid of 1. However, you may spend a matching warden, returning it to the supply to add 3 to your bid. I have a yellow warden and 2 red wardens. This means that without spending anything, I automatically add 3 to my bid. However, I could choose to spend any number of them, potentially adding up to 9 total to my bid. Once everyone has locked in their bid, reveal all bids simultaneously. Then, in bid order, from highest to lowest, players select their rewards from the chosen Reckoning reward card. Ties are broken by the lower victory point score, and then by proximity to the player with the first player card. After a player selects their reward, they must first pay for their bid by spending that amount of resources. Then they take their reward. Rewards can be monuments, victory points, or resources. If a player chooses a monument reward, they must immediately place a monument from the supply on any empty scoring space on the board. This monument permanently enacts a new scoring mechanic that will trigger at the end of this age and all future ages. So for example, a monument placed in the first age will score 3 times. However, there is one outlier in the reward selection. The player who selects the last place reward, outlined in red, does not have to pay for their bid. Only one player may select each reward, and if a player bids more than they can afford, their bid is reduced to their maximum payable amount. Once all rewards have been claimed and paid for, the player who played the Reckoning card then tucks it under its pillar on their board, and play continues with the next player in turn order. The icons on each Reckoning card are wild, which can be extremely helpful if the corresponding monument is built. After all cards in an age have been played, the player with the fewest victory points initiates the final Reckoning in the region shown on the face-up public Reckoning card. Like usual, that player then chooses a pillar token to move from another region into the Reckoning region. The final Reckoning follows the normal bidding process, using the remaining face-up reward card on the board. After all rewards have been claimed and paid for, the first place winner of the Reckoning tucks that public Reckoning card under their board and also takes the first player card for the next age. Once the final Reckoning is complete, all players should score victory points for each constructed monument. Now we'll go over the scoring for each monument. First, the last place monument awards 5 points in Age 1, 10 points in Age 2, and 15 points in Age 3 to the player with the least victory points. This monument must be scored before any others. Next, each of the 5 pillars has a monument tied to its influence track. Each of these score victory points based on how much influence you have on its track. The bottom zone, 0 to 2, scores -2 points. The middle zone, 3 to 5, scores 3 points, and the top zone, 6 or more, scores 8 points. Then there are 2 area control monuments, one for the 2 northern regions and another for the 3 southern regions. When chosen, these monuments award 8 points to the player who has the most acolytes in each region. Ties for the most acolytes give points to all tied players. Next, there are monuments that award victory points for each resource type. The coin monument gives 12 points to the player with the most coins. The mercenary monument gives 2 points per mercenary card in your hand. Next is the warden monument. When you place it, choose one of 2 options. The top, which awards 5 points per set of teal and pink wardens, or the bottom, which awards 8 points per set of blue, yellow, and red wardens. You may score multiple sets. Note that for this monument, only one option may be chosen per game. Next, each of the 5 pillars has a monument that scores points based on the icons on cards that you've tucked onto your player board. The guidance icon monument scores points equal to your map icons multiplied by your key icons. The Radiance icon monument awards 6 points for each neighbor with fewer spirit icons and deducts 2 points for each neighbor with more spirit icons. Ties with a neighbor award 0 points. The Understanding icon monument offers 2 options. If the open eye icons are chosen, all players score 3 points per open eye. If the closed eye icons are chosen, all players score 3 points per closed eye. Like the Warden monument, only one option may be chosen per game. The Dominion icon monument scores victory points based on how many unique Dominion icons you have. 0 icons equals -6 points, 1 icon equals -1 point, 2 equals 2, all the way up to 5 unique icons scoring 16 points. Note that you cannot score multiple sets. Next, the Equity icon monument awards 10 points to the player with the most coin purse icons and -5 points to the player with the fewest. Ties receive the full point value for most and least. And finally, there is a monument that awards 8 points for each card in your smallest pillar stack. So for example, if your smallest stack has 2 cards, you'd score 16 points. There are 5 artifacts in the game, each tied to a pillar. Each artifact grants an ongoing special ability to the one who holds it. To gain an artifact, you must lead its influence track at 3 or higher. If 2 or more players are tied for the lead on a track, the artifact returns to its place next to the board until a player gains the lead again. Once you have an artifact, you keep it until someone else takes or ties for the lead. It's worth noting that when you play your action cards, you gain the resources in the center of the card before you gain influence from the card. So if a card gains you enough influence to claim an artifact, you cannot use its bonus on the resources you gained from that card. Artifacts trigger whenever you take their corresponding action. This could be from action cards or any other means. Now we'll talk about each artifact ability. The Mirror triggers whenever you gain mercenary cards, awarding you 2 extra cards. The Lantern triggers when you deploy acolytes, allowing you to deploy 2 extra to any region. The Harmonium triggers each time you gain a Warden, and earns you 1 free influence on the matching pillar track. The Scale triggers each time you gain coins, and awards you 2 extra coins. And lastly, the Crown artifact triggers at the beginning of each reckoning. It gives you a choice, 1 of 3 bonuses: a mercenary card, a coin, or an acolyte. Note that this artifact may trigger the effects of other artifacts if you happen to hold multiple artifacts at once. After all 3 ages and all monument scoring is complete, the game ends. The player with the most victory points wins. And that's how to play Realm of Reckoning. If you have any questions, hit us up in the comments or come hang out with us on Discord.